Good morning, good afternoon and good evening everybody. Thanks for tuning in again to one of these custom restoration modification videos. This time around it's a 1986 Matchbox Ford tranny van. So here then we have a rather average looking Ford Transit van, quite commonplace here in Europe on the roads. Not a bad replica from Matchbox this time. This is the Mark III version. It's from 1986. Pretty good. It's got headlights built into this one. They did them in left-hand drive and right-hand drive. Not a bad looking casting really. They did it again 10 years later in the Mark. I think this was the Mark IV. It might have just been a facelifted Mark III, but they got rid of the plastic bumper and, well, sorry, the grille that was attached to the chassis of the plastic bumper and amalgamated it into the actual casting itself. There you go, and got rid of the lights, which is a bit of a shame, but nevertheless, it's a pretty good replica. Here we've got a Corgi one now on the right, and I'm just quickly going through a few different transit vans while I've got them all here, just in case any of you haven't got any, or have any to look at, should I say. A little bit bigger, a little bit wider, as they always are. None more bigger than this Ledo version. I never know how to pronounce it. It always used to make me laugh as a kid because I used to think they were from Wales because everything starts with two L's. Llanberis, Llandudno, etc. And then the Mark II Supervans, which got a fair few of these, some in better condition than others. I will get round to doing something with these later on at some stage. Don't like how they've blacked out the windows. I'm sure there's something nice hiding inside when I take them on apart. Here we've got a majorette version, a little bit lanky, a little bit out of proportion, but nevertheless a pretty good idea to make some custom transport ones later on. And then finally we've got the Mark I version from Matchbox, covered in my mother's polish at the time from the 70s. It had some little plastic pallets, I think, on the back of these. And then, oh sorry, no, finally we've got some Corgi versions. These are the Mark IIs in pickup and sort of low loader form. Again, a little bit different depending on the brand. But just a bit of a quick comparison before I crack on with this one. I thought you may or may not like to have seen it, but there you go. Here we've got then the Transit that I'm going to do something with. But whilst I've got you all here, I just want to quickly give you a quick overview of lots of other things that I've got going on. If you haven't already subscribed, please, please, please do so. I'm not one for looking at statistics, but somehow I have done this time on YouTube, and I think there's something like 15% of current subscribers watch my videos. So if I can turn the other 85% of you that watch these, please ring the bell, please subscribe and get all the latest videos from me. I've got lots in the pipeline. I'm just going to quickly show you a few. I've got the garages, I've got some of these little engines that I've still teased you all with, but I've done nothing yet with my Styrene diaries to show you these. Various little projects. I've got a little shelf full of old cars that go to start a project and then something else comes in the way, so they end up staying on the shelf. I've got all the little work tools, the little workshop stuff to show you, dioramas to show you, a little sneak preview of a truck there. Some older stuff again to restore. And again, all this doesn't include my already boxfuls and bags fulls of all the other cars that I've got from a kid that are restored. Believe it or not, I don't consider myself a collector, but you know, it is what it is. So please, please, please subscribe. I'd really, really appreciate it. So back onto this Transit van then. You've seen me, if you've watched some of the other videos, already strip the paint and remove bodies a fair few times by now. And if you haven't, you're watching this for the first time, please take a look at my channel. There's some more videos there on how to remove the paint and how to remove the bodies. So rather than bog it down again the same, just jump and have a quick look at that. So once I've stripped this down then, I quite like these Matchbox ones. I'll use a little bit of spring steel for suspension. Dead easy to remove the wheels as well and the axles out of it. Typical little plastic base. Nice little interior actually. Nice little flatbed. We could probably do something with another one in the future with the other ones that I've got. Little bit of flash left over on some of these mouldings, but it's not the end of the world. Again, when I removed this glass, it was a bit of a pain trying to drill out the little rivet posts. So I spared you the boredom of me doing that, but it took some time because I didn't want to go all the way through and pop out the roof. But I'm not actually going to use this glass again anyway. I'll make my own side windows and windscreen with some styrene. So I'll keep the little headlights obviously because they'll still come in rather useful, but the actual casting itself is really, really good. And it's always the same, that they're always hidden by lots of paint and daft liveries, but they are quite accurate actually. So otherwise missed, not bothered with, actually quite good. And I'll probably again with another one do the Mark III Supervan at some point, but for now let's get cracking on. You've probably already seen the thumbnail, a little raced transporter type car, van even. And I say transporter, I suppose back when these were doing the rounds in the 80s, it was before they had big transports and stuff, and technically the livery I'm going to do now was on the Mark II van. And it supported, I think, the Mark II Escorts, but the car I've got planned for another video to go hand in hand with this was mid-80s, so by then these Mark III vans are out, hence I'm doing it on this one. And technically they never did delivery in this van, so it is a little bit different. So I'm going to crack on and make a roof rack, and I've simply just marked out with a bit of masking tape where I want the roof rack to go on this, and just jot a few measurements down and make some little reference points to where I'm going to drill some pilot holes through. I prefer to use this little pillar drill just to give it a quick tickle through, and again, rather than spare you the boredom of watching me drill loads of holes, there you go, it's as quick and simple as that. I'll quickly use the same reference points and just mark out the 4 holes for which I'm going to use like a paper clip to be the locating pin on the bottom of these roof bars. And I've seen lots of different roof racks before when people make them. What I've always tended to do is make the little roof bars first. It's so many times I've seen little roof racks on cars and it's just a roof rack straight on the car. There's no actual roof bars themselves for the rack to then mount on. So here I'm just going to make the little roof bars first, and it's gluing a little piece of the paper clip into a little slither of 2mm styrene with another pilot hole drilled into it, and make these tiny little lollipops. Just using a little bit of activator on the glue to make it dry a little bit quicker so I can handle it. But once I've got that pin in, I'll simply trim it to the length that I need, like so. There you go, nice little miniature lollipop. And then again a few little slithers of 0.5mm styrene to make bars that go across, and with a little bit of MAC on it, a little bit of ethyl. If you don't know what that is, again look at my Styrene Diaries video. I will get to do some more. Please subscribe and you'll see them. I'll just quickly promote that again. And here we have some little roof bars. They look a little bit industrial at this stage, a little bit basic, like planks of wood on some bricks, but we've got the basis to start with. So just to add a little bit of detail, I'll just make some little slithers to stick to the little side pieces, just to add a little bit of depth and a bit of detail to them so they don't look like these little planks. And as you can see by the back one, it probably does look a little bit like something out of Fast and the Furious at this moment, a little bit of a cheap and cheerful spoiler, but once they've had a coating of paint on, it'll bring it out a little bit. It'll show that it is a roof bar. So to come and make the little basket cage roof rack itself, I'd already, to make it nice and symmetrical and straight, I'd already drawn it out even, use proper English, I'd drawn it out on the computer. So then I suddenly thought, well, I'll try and use my vinyl cutter and cut some styrene. I didn't want to cut all the way through, at least just score it so I could cut it out fine afterwards, and it actually did a pretty good job. Nice and precise. So I opted for this method, and in partly due to the amount of holes that I'm going to use to locate the upper part of the roof rack, which I'll get onto in a minute. It was a quicker method of doing it. I'd already drawn it anyway, so here I'm just removing the central pieces of it, and then with the little holes that I'd already pre-scored into it, just use my little hand drill, little pin drill, jeweler's drill, I never know what to call them, just to mark out the holes. And then we've got the basis for the bottom of the roof rack, and I cut a little slither out for the top, which will sit once I've put the little bars in place like that. So it is getting a little bit fine. If I'd have done all this with a ruler and just the blade, I'd have been there all day and it'd have made a right mess. So quite glad I opted for that. Put some little fine pieces of styrene now, and I'll put a link to this little chopper board. Be careful, these blades, every time I come to use it, I always cut myself, so a little safety warning from me to you there. Dead straightforward to use. Just measure out the length that you want, mark down a little backstop, and just get chopping away. It's as simple as that. You can fire through a bulk load of same length in next to no time, so highly recommend it. I'll put the link in the description, but be careful of that blade. See how close I get to it there. So now we've got all these tiny little pieces, and there's a fair amount of them. A little way I use to keep everything in track when putting all these pieces in is to two different ways. If it's a big piece, you could use some spray mount on a piece of paper, make it nice and tacky and stick the piece to it. Or little tiny pieces like this, I tend to use some masking tapes, stick them down to make a little sticky mount board, little sticky template like so. And once it's all in place, it's just a matter of getting the work that you want to do and sitting it in there. You don't have to push it down hard, just enough for it to stay in place while you're doing your work. And then with all these little pieces, again, you don't have to push down on it, it'll just simply locate. Great for fine little fiddly pieces like this. Everything will just stop nice in situ, and then it's simply a matter of getting your mech out again. Getting your mech out. Sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? Getting out the glue solution. Get your mech out. Get your mech out and then start just giving it all a bit of a tickle. And it will all locate quite easily. For the base of it, I'm using some mesh from some car speakers. I had a big sheet of this from a certain brand of car for a project I was working on a long time ago. An off-cut that was being thrown away. I thought, that'll come in handy. And I used it on a lot of RC cars at the time and a lot of 1/24 cars. I've still got a pile of it left, so I thought this will do just right for the base of this roof rack. Dead straightforward to cut through with a piece of scissors. Mind the sharp edges though on the tops when you've cut it. And it will simply slot in the middle, and I'll glue it down later on, but it's a bit of a trial fit. It looks all right. And with this little surround on top now, hold it in place. I just simply put a little weight on it. In this particular video, I'm just going to throw these tweezers back down on top of it, and then whilst it's in push down, again give it another tickle with the mech. Only leave it for, I don't know, a minute or so. Not even that. By the time you've got round to the last one, it'll be dried anyway. So once you're done, you simply peel it away from the little self-adhesive base template. Don't worry about the cage, I'll glue that in later on. You will get a bit of a tacky bit underneath where the styrene is sort of melted, because that's what the mech does, it melts it all together, so you can sand that down afterwards. But there you have a relatively pain-free way of doing something so fine. And there, the little roof basket, roof rack, to carry all the wheels and tyres and jerry cans, other supporting equipment for the rally cars in the top. And there you have a little styrene roof rack. Once it's painted, it'll look a lot better as well. And now I've glued the cage in place and the roof bars to the rack. All in all, probably about an hour's work, maybe an hour and a half, by the time I've drawn the little template out and cut it on the vinyl cutter. But there you go. So onto the interior now. Nothing really massive to do on this, just nip away at the little bits of flash, and I've already painted with primer in the background and sprayed them white the body, and I'll just do the same again with this interior. Just a quick lick over of white primer and then white paint. Nothing massively over the top in this video, but whilst it's drying, I'm going to make a little tow bar for the back, and I'm going to use a slightly thicker metal rod that I've got. But whilst I've got you here, I'm just going to quickly go and show you some of these little trailers. I started to make a trailer a while back and I stupidly built it for one specific car, and so it was too wide for everything else. It didn't particularly balance that good, so I thought I'll revisit it and make another one another day. So at the time it was okay, but it wasn't really that to scale. I was going to do a video on another one, I was going to build another one, and it just so happened on my Instagram, a great guy, Rob, Altaris 3D, on Instagram is RWO164, I'll put all the links in the description, makes some 3D printed ones. So I'm all for supporting the hobby, I'm all for promoting people as much as I possibly can. He sent me some of these excellent 3D printed trailers through. One's got a little tyre rack on the front like this one, and I've simply, all I've done is painted it. I've put no other detail on it. And the cracking little pieces of kit, actually. Perfect width for the cars. The car specifically I want to put on the back of this is a little bit tight, so I will still revisit building a trailer because I want to do a slight twist on that theme anyway. But for this particular video, I thought I'm going to go with these Altaris 3D ones from Rob and promote him as best I can. So please take a look at him. In the description in the bottom I'll put some links. So I'll crack on now and make this little tow bar. Straightforward bent piece. Not rocket science, this one. A small little hole in the base of the chassis, again using this little hand drill, and it'll sit just nicely where the body locates on this. It's only got one rivet pin on the front to keep the chassis connected to the body, so the back sort of feeds in with these little grooves. You've seen them on lots of different cars. I actually quite like these methods. So where that hole is and where the tow bar will sit in, it'll sit just flush with the body on the back, so it'll fit quite well. And I've done a tight fit on this because I didn't want oodles and oodles of glue oozing out everywhere. So looks a bit like a fishing hook now, like I just caught it in the river. So I'll make a little bowl cup, bowl holder on top of the tow bar now, rather than just leave it plain metal. Quickly get some styrene rod, file it round at the top just to give it a little rounded head to it, and then very finely drill, and they're getting fiddlier and fiddlier, these pieces are. Just drill a little hole in it just so it sits just nice on top of the tow bar. So with the wheels, I'm going to use some monoblock wheels, some great little rubber tyres and wheel combo things. The ones I've got all writing round, which I didn't think would really fit in keeping with this van. And I went through all my piles of old wheels, and some of the generic ones off the Hot Wheels and Matchbox looked rubbish. All the other ones, that the aftermarket ones I've bought for other projects, look a bit too pimp my ride, so I didn't really want to use them. So I thought these almost Weller looking ones I thought fitted the van quite well. So here I am again, just making the own axles up to fit it. A little blob of solder on the top. I quite like doing this method now. I've got quite quick at making them and doing quite a good little polished effect on them. They're coming out quite good every time now. So here is the white van man. It's terminology we use here in the UK as well for all the nut jobs in a white van. Up your back end, flying down the motorway, never seemed to get caught, never registered to anybody particularly. But here you go, here's my white van at the moment, and I'm just going to adjust that tow bar a little bit on the back. It looks a little bit too appealing, shall we say. It looks a little bit too large, so I'll trim that down a little bit. Bit of a show off, isn't it? So I will do something with that. And then for the windscreens, I've simply done what I've done on a lot of other cars, because this one sadly is a bit too far and gone. It's a little bit discoloured and too much gouges in it. So it's styrene from Evergreens. I don't think it's technically styrene, it's just a little clear acrylic. Get my words right. And it's very easy to do these ones. I haven't got to do any fancy little windscreen assemblies. They're all quite flat pieces that'll glue in quite nicely. Well, actually, I've started using blue tack, actually, because the glue tends to vaporise and go all funny up the screen. So I've started using blue tack just to keep it in place. And finally, to give it that little bit more detail on it is a set of wing mirrors from 3 pieces of styrene, a little triangle piece, a little rectangular piece for the mirror bit itself, and a little arm. And very carefully they mimic quite well the big Mickey Mouse ear type wing mirrors, side mirrors. You know, people keep saying wing mirrors. Well, I keep saying wing mirrors. They're not technically mounted on wings anymore, aren't they? They've been side mirrors for decades. But side mirrors then, a little bit of bending, a little bit of cutting, and with a little bit more mech, just put in place, getting fiddlier and fiddlier as we go along. We have a little mirror, and these will look a lot better when they're painted, trust me. There we go. And just offer it up to the van just to show you where I'm going. I'll just sit nicely on the side like that. So versatile, styrene. I'm going to make an entire car out of it actually one day on one of my videos. And a final little paint up. Nothing great to put on this one other than just a little bit of colour for the seats, a little bit for the dashboard, and we're done with it really. Not a great deal to add to this. It's all going to be in the decals. There you go, just the dash and the seats really for this one. Put it in my little paint drying system, version 1. But a quick little tip for doing tiny little pieces is I tend to wrap some masking tape again around a little cocktail stick or a little matchstick, and then you've got a nice tacky little wand that you can simply stick the part to and paint away. And it's perfect because the base, which is stuck to it, is nice and clean, and it'll glue up quite nice when I come to glue it and stick it on the body. The final piece is some custom decals by myself again. So I'm going for the Belga race livery, some Belgian cigarettes. I think some of the cigarette advertising from the 70s and 80s were amongst the best of the race car liveries that have ever been, in my opinion. The Rothmans one, the JPS stuff, Marlboro. But I haven't done a Belga one, so I've quite fancied doing one of these to support the car, which I've got planned to go on the trailer with this one. There you go. Very straightforward process, although a little bit time consuming and a little bit fiddly. So let's have a quick look at how it originally looked. A red van, quite basic. And now my little custom race transporter support vehicle in the Belga team colours, and I've stuck my little SK75 logo in on there as well, as I do with most of my, well, if not all of my little creations. Doesn't harm a little bit of self-promotion, does it? But here we go. Some number plates I've put on there. I've kept the headlights from the original model, made the new windscreen and side screens, little wing mirrors, tow bar, roof rack, and of course the monoblock wheels. Painted all the indicators as well, and I started to use some paint that I'd lost a long time ago, some little translucent red and orange, but has reappeared again in my model archive, so it does look like it's real indicators, so I'm quite chuffed with that. found that again. Last time I used it was on an old 124th car. So put some little wheels in just to show you that it will hold some little support for the car. And with the trailer on, Mark II Escort, got plans for some of them coming up. The Corgi, which everybody voted for on here for me to do as opposed to the Hot Wheels one, which I will get round to doing very, very shortly. But for this specific era of van and trailer I've got planned, it's going to have to be the RS200, which will be the supporting one. And I've got a pile of these cars as well. A few different variations I want to do. A couple of Pikes Peak ones, a couple of Rallycross ones. But I will get round to doing the Belga one. So please all subscribe. Please ring the bell and you'll be notified as soon as I come round to doing it. As always, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. All the very best and see you next time.